Hey, once again back here in Conan, and today I wanted to talk about the Guardian's long duration buffs. The Guardian got their 2 stances as all the other soldiers. In addition to that, they have 3 tactics and 3 maneuvers. That makes for 8 different long duration buffs to handle, and 8 is a little bit too much to be thinking of in the heat of battle, so I think we should start it off by simplifying it a little bit. So let's start by eliminating what we don't need for group play. First off, we have the elusive daring buff. This is for PvP. For PvE, I don't actually can see a single place where we would have use for it. The 2 other maneuvers are way better for all types of PvE play. Then we have the attack tactic. This is for solo or PvP play. As a Guardian, you don't play the damage game, and not even with a polearm spec. The attack tactic is only for when you need to kill off something alone. In group play, you pretty much just ignore it all of the time. Then we have the frenzy stance. Again, frenzy stance is for solo play or PvP. The penalty you gain to your damage mitigation is not really the problem. When you have geared up some, you will still end up at the same mitigation level as some light armor users when you are in frenzy. But the problem is that you aren't generating enough aggro while in frenzy. And if you're not generating aggro, why are you playing a guard? So we just throw away the frenzy stance, which leaves us really only with 1 stance that we can choose. As you can see here, I have fitted some extra mitigation, so I have plus 10% damage mitigation. If you haven't fitted the improved defensive stance, you will be at 7% extra damage mitigation. We have to remember this is not effective mitigation, but the gain there is still a nice little defensive buff. But the real meat is the 5% hate modifier. Even if your damage is reduced by 10%, hate is such a powerful stat that as a Guardian, you just end up generating way more aggro when you count all the numbers. So, defensive stance we should always have on. And then we have cut it down to actually just 4 different buffs that we need to worry about. And that again means we only have to make 2 rules to decide what we should use. So let's first talk about the maneuvers. Mental barrier or wall of steel. The rule is pretty simple here, as you may already have understood. If you take magic damage, you go for the mental barrier. If you take physical damage, you go for the wall of steel. If the damage you take is a mix, you should parse to see what you take most damage from, if it's physical or magical. On some fights as well, you can switch during the fight. The cooldown from switching is just 1 second, so while you can't switch for every hit, you can easily switch when you know big hit is coming. A good example of this is the demo version of the Keeper in Tier 3. When you keep your Wall of Steel up to take all of the melee hits, but when you get the Blaze, you switch over to Mental Barrier. After the Blaze is over, back to Wall of Steel. So, that's it for those buffs. Then we are at the tactics. Here we have defense and provoke. Again, we should try to make a simple rule, like when you need aggro, if you are generating aggro, then you use provoke. If you don't need aggro, you use defense. Pretty simple. Now, it's a bit silly to say that as a guardian you ever don't need aggro, but there are situations where aggro is actually not your main concern. And this often comes on harder content where you are dependent on aggro switching. So you go provoke to gain the aggro, take 1 or 2 hits, then you switch to defense. This gives you 2 positive effects. First of all, you will generate less aggro than your fellow tank. Remember, on the harder content, you are dependent on aggro switches. So when you generate less aggro, that means the tank standing next to you will generate more. Ergo, over time, he will grab aggro from you. And the second effect you get is that you do mitigate more damage. That means that if the tank next to you is a little bit weaker, maybe has some worse gear, you can survive for longer while that tank tries to gain the aggro from you. Of course, if you are solo tanking, you may only keep provoke active all of the time, but if you go below 30% health or around that number, you should either way switch to defense. To die while you are in provoke stance is really weak. There is no reason that ever should happen. If the healer can't keep you alive, then you are sort of forced to switch over to more defensive tactics and can't generate that much aggro. It's something I always tell my healers. You can't overheal me. The more healing I get, the more aggro I generate. I switch out defensive gear for aggressive gear and switch my AAs around. So it may be if you're pugging and you get in a bad group, even when solo tanking, you may want to go over to defense tactic, but as a general rule, always when you want more aggro, use provoke. And that is about all about the Guardian's long duration buffs. To summarize, there are really just 2 questions you need to ask yourself and 2 things to keep track of. What is the damage type and what is your aggro level? Thank you for watching.